Scott Haggerty, and I welcome you to our workshop slash podcast, Tired, Wired, and Inflamed, presented to you by the Take Health Back podcast. So tonight, as we dive in here, we're going to get into something that we see every single day in practice, but so many people are struggling and aren't even aware why. So what we're going to talk about is how chronic stress keeps the body from healing. So I'd like to welcome you all, because tonight what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a pattern that has become incredibly common in modern health. People are exhausted, but they cannot relax. They are overstimulated, but depleted. They are inflamed, but unable to recover. They are sleeping, but not waking restored. They're doing more and unfortunately feeling less. This is exactly what I mean by tired, wired, and inflamed. Excuse me, I'm sorry. This presentation is not just about stress as an emotion. It is about stress as a biological state. Chronic stress changes how the nervous system, gut, immune system, hormones, brain, and muscles function. The big concept for today is this. The body has different operating modes. In one mode, the body protects. In another mode, the body repairs. Protection is necessary. You're in danger, and your body should mobilize energy, increase alertness, tighten muscles, elevate heart rate, and prepare you to respond. But healing requires an entirely different state. Healing requires digestion, sleep, mitochondrial energy, immune resolution, tissue repair, hormone rhythm, and nervous system regulation. The problem is that many people are trying to heal their body while still operating as if it is under a threat. So today, we are going to walk through why that happens and what to do about it. We will cover why stress disrupts digestion, why inflammation persists, why sleep breaks down, why the body becomes tense, why energy disappears, and how we begin shifting the body back toward regulation. So the goal is not to heal the body. The goal is to understand what the body is doing, help it moving from survival back towards healing. So the frustration of functional decline is a real problem. This is one of the most common frustrations that people experience. They know something is wrong. They are tired, they are foggy, inflamed, their digestion is just off, their sleep is inconsistent, their mood is not what it used to be, their body hurts more than it should, and their recovery is slower than it ever used to be. So they get labs done. And many times they're told everything looks totally normal. Now, conventional labs are important, but they can identify serious disease, right? They can see organ dysfunction, infection, anemia, diabetes, thyroid disease, and other major problems. Here's the teaching point. Normal does not always mean optimal. So lab reference ranges are often designed to identify disease states, not necessarily to measure resilience, adaptability, nervous system regulation, gut function, inflammatory load, or early functional decline. So a person can be outside of optimal function long before they are inside of a clear disease category. That means someone can be medically normal, but physiologically struggling. The problem is that many people live right in this gap, and this may be speaking directly to you where you are today. So they're not sick enough to be diagnosed with something severe, but they're clearly not functioning well, not healing well. This is where we need to expand the conversation. And here's what we need to ask. Number one, how well is the body adapting? 2, how well is the nervous system recovering? 3, how well is digestion working? 4, how is sleep restoring the system? 5, how much inflammation is present? 6, how much stress is the body carrying? And 7, how much energy is available for repair? So the solution is not to ignore labs. The solution is to combine appropriate testing with a deeper level of functional assessment. That means looking at patterns, sleep, energy, digestion, stress patterns, heart rate variability, muscle tension, inflammatory symptoms, food reactions, recovery after exertion, and the timeline of when symptoms began. The body usually tells a story before it gives a diagnosis. Our job is to listen earlier. So the concept on this slide is that stress is not just mental. Stress is very physiological. When the brain perceives threat, the body changes. Heart rate rises, breathing changes, muscles tighten, Blood sugar mobilizes, digestion slows, immune signaling shifts, hormones change, sleep depth can decrease. The body does this because it is trying to protect you. This is not a design flaw. That is survival physiology. The problem happens when that stress response becomes chronic. The body cannot tell the difference between every type of stress as neatly as we do. A deadline, poor sleep, inflammatory food, blood sugar crash, chronic pain, emotional stress, overtraining, gut irritation, financial pressure, and constant screen stimulation may all feed the same internal stress load. When that load stays high, several systems begin to change. The brain becomes more vigilant and less clear. The heart becomes more activated and less variable. The gut becomes less efficient with digestion and motility. The muscles hold more protective tension. The immune system can become more reactive or less efficient at resolving inflammation. So the problem is not simply that someone is stressed out. The problem is that the body has adapted to stress by changing its internal settings. That is why telling someone to just relax rarely works. The solution has to be physiological too. We need to reduce total stress load, restore rhythm, improve sleep cues, stabilize blood sugar, support the improve breathing mechanics, regulate the nervous system, and help the body experience repeated signals of safety. See, stress is something the body becomes. Regulation is something the body must relearn. The concept here is the autonomic nervous system. This is the part of the nervous system that regulates autonomic function like heart rate, breathing, digestion, blood pressure, sweating, pupil changes, gut motility, recovery, and so much more. For teaching purposes, we can think of two major modes. The first is survival mode. This is the gas pedal. It's associated with the sympathetic activation, fight, flight, freeze, bracing, alertness, protection, and rapid response. The second mode is healing mode. This is the associated with the parasympathetic nervous system. And that is rest, sleep, recovery, immune regulation, and connection. Now, for context, neither mode is bad. You need the gas pedal to perform and to protect you. You need the brake pedal to recover and heal. The problem is the loss of flexibility. A healthy system can activate when needed and then come back down when the stress is over. An overwhelmed system, unfortunately, gets stuck. And people live with the gas pedal pressed down and the brake pedal underactive. This is why they can feel exhausted and overstimulated at the exact same time. They are not truly energized, they are activated. And there is a big difference. Energy feels steady, clear, and recoverable. Stress activation feels urgent, tense, and draining. The solution is to rebuild autonomic flexibility. That means helping the body practice shifting gears again. Breathing work, chiropractic care, walking, sleep rhythm, hydration, protein intake, sunlight, strength training at the right dose, prayer, meditation, and recovery routines are not random wellness habits. Inputs to the nervous system to move between activation and recovery. The goal is not to deliver relaxed time. The goal is adaptability. Concept here is all about the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve begins in the brainstem, travels into the neck, chest, and abdomen. It communicates with the heart, lungs, stomach, intestines, liver, pancreas, and the immune system, amongst many other things. It is one of the major communication pathways between the brain and the body. And the vagus nerve helps regulate heart rhythm, breathing, gut motility, digestive secretions, inflammatory responses, and recovery. That is why I do not think it is only a relaxation, that is why I don't want you to think of it as only a relaxation nerve. It is better understood as a regulation nerve. And that is the key concept. The problem is that many people have poor vagal tone and poor parasympathetic regulation. When that happens, the body has a harder time shifting into rest and digest. So this can contribute to things like reflux, constipation, bloating, nausea, shallow breathing, racing heart, anxiety, poor sleep, low HRV, chronic fatigue, and poor stress tolerance. You see, the gut especially depends upon good vagal input. Digestion is not just about what you eat. It is also about the state your nervous system is when you eat. Ooh, I'm sorry about that, folks. So let me reboot this here because when you think about what is happening, okay? If we think about the vagus as a regulation nerve, then what happens is the body's having a harder time shipping into rest and digest, and it has all those symptoms that we talked about. So the gut is especially going to be susceptible to problems with vagal input because, as we talked about, it's not just what you eat; it's about the system's state when you eat. So if the body does not feel safe, digestion is going to be downgraded. That is why people under chronic stress often develop gut symptoms, even if their digestion and diet have not changed dramatically. The solution is to strengthen the regulation pathways. And this can include slow nasal breathing, longer exhales, humming, gargling, singing, prayer or meditation, gentle movement, walking after meals, chiropractic care, improving posture and breathing mechanics, reducing inflammatory load, and building consistent recovery rhythms. The vagus nerve responds to repetitions. We do not activate the vagus nerve once and it fixes everything. We need to train regulation over time. And this is, I think, one of the most critical concepts that it is a process of retraining the vagus once it has gotten out of rhythm. So this slide is going to teach you a really important loop. The brain and the gut are in constant communication. Stress affects digestion, and digestive stress affects the brain. And here's the sequence. When the brain perceives stress, the body shifts towards fight or flight. In fight or flight, digestion becomes less of a priority. So stomach acid signaling can change. Enzyme output may decrease. Gut motility may slow or become irregular. This can contribute to reflux, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, nausea, and food sensitivity patterns. As digestion becomes less efficient, the microbiome can shift. Poor motility can allow microbial microbial imbalances. Gut irritation can increase immune activation. So once the immune system is becoming more activated, inflammatory signals can rise throughout the entire body. Those inflammatory signals can even affect the brain. A brain receiving inflammatory input may become foggy, anxious, irritable, reactive, or fatigued. Then that more reactive brain drives more stress physiology, and that is the loop. Stress disrupts digestion. Poor digestion irritates the gut. Gut irritation activates immunity. Immune activation raises inflammation. Inflammation affects the brain. The brain drives more stress. The problem is that many people try to fix only one point in the loop. They change food but never calm the nervous system. Or they try meditation but ignore gut inflammation. Or they take supplements but keep poor sleep, unstable blood sugar, and chronic stress patterns. The solution is to interrupt the loop from multiple angles. So then we calm the nervous system. We support gut motility and digestion. We stabilize the blood sugar. We improve sleep rhythm and we lower inflammatory load. We support the microbiome and we improve vagal tone. When enough of those signals improve, the loop can begin moving in the opposite direction. So this concept is all about the gut-brain barrier. Excuse me, about the gut barrier, not the gut-brain barrier. I apologize. The gut lining is a selective border system. It allows nutrients through while keeping harmful particles, toxins, and pathogens, irritants from crossing into the bloodstream. The barrier is constantly interacting with the immune system. That is important because the gut is where the outside world meets the inside world. Every meal, food additive, bacteria, toxin, and microbial metabolite must be evaluated. When the gut barrier is healthy, the immune system can remain more tolerant and balanced. The problem occurs when the barrier becomes irritated or overwhelmed. Triggers can include chronic stress, poor sleep, ultra-processed foods, excessive sugar intake, alcohol intake, dysbiosis, infections, antibiotics, food sensitivities, toxins, and inflammatory lifestyle patterns. So when the gut lining becomes permeable or inflamed, the immune system may begin reacting more aggressively. The deeper issue is not just digestive discomfort. The deeper issue really is immune activation. So immune activation can create systemic inflammatory signals. Those signals can affect joints, muscles, skin, the brain, mood, energy, and sleep. This is why gut problems do not always stay in the gut. The solution starts with reducing the irritants and restoring the environment. And that may include improving food quality, reducing obvious triggers, supporting bowel regularity, calming stress physiology, improving sleep, supporting stomach acid and enzymes when appropriate, rebuilding the gut microbiome, and using targeted gut support when clinically indicated. See, a healthy gut barrier is not only built with supplements, it is built through the daily environment that the gut is living. Excuse me. So, one of the more complicated concepts is this idea of cortisol rhythm. And if you've never heard of this, we're going to spend some time on this. So, cortisol is often called a stress hormone, but it is not bad. You need cortisol. It helps you wake up. It helps you to regulate blood sugar, maintain blood pressure, respond to stress, and mobilize energy. In a healthy rhythm, cortisol is usually higher in the morning and gradually lowers throughout the course of the day. That pattern helps you feel alert earlier and calmer later. So the problem is not cortisol itself. The problem is a dysregulated cortisol rhythm. Some people are exhausted in the morning, dependent upon caffeine, foggy throughout the day, crashing in the afternoon, and then wired as can be at night. They may wake up between 2 and 4 a.m. with racing thoughts or physical alertness. This is often a sign that the stress rhythm is broken. Several factors can contribute: chronic physiological stress, poor sleep habits, late caffeine, blood sugar crashes, inflammation, alcohol, nighttime screen exposure, overtraining, undereating, and poor light exposure. So essentially, the body loses its timing. And when timing breaks, sleep will naturally suffer. So this matters because sleep is not passive. Sleep is when the brain clears waste, tissues repair, hormones regulate, inflammation resolve, and the nervous system recalibrates. If stress disrupts sleep, it directly disrupts healing. So the solution is not to rebuild circadian rhythm. Morning sunlight is one of the most powerful signals. Consistent wake time matters. Protein at breakfast helps to stabilize blood sugar. Caffeine timing matters. Even light exposure really matters. Late meals, alcohol, and intense nighttime stimulation may really need to be reduced. Breathing or prayer before bed can also help transition the nervous system to calm. So, simply put, the goal is not to force sleep. The goal is to create the physiology that allows for sleep. Now, this slide teaches two very related problems: energy depletion and physical bracing. The concept is that protection costs energy. Inflammation costs energy. Muscle tension costs energy. Hypervigilance costs energy. Poor sleep costs energy. Poor digestion costs energy. Blood sugar swings cost energy. When the body spends too much energy protecting, there is less energy available for repair. This is where mitochondria really matter. Mitochondria are the energy producing structures inside the cells. They'll produce the energy required for brain function, muscle function, immune function, detoxification, tissue repair, and healing. The problem is that chronic stress and inflammation increase energy demand while also reducing the quality of recovery. People may begin to feel like their internal battery is always just slow. They wake up tired, crash after meals, have brain fog, they recover poorly from workouts, they feel weaker, and they heal slower. At the same time, the body may become physically braced. Stress increases muscle tone. People clench their jaws, tighten their neck and shoulders, breathe shallowly, brace their core, tighten their lower back, and develop headaches or pain sensitivity. This tension is not always just a local muscle protection. It can be a nervous system protection pattern. So the solution to this then is twofold. First, reduce unnecessary energy drains, or sleep, inflammatory food, overtraining, unstable blood sugar, dehydration, and chronic stress load are where the easiest low-hanging fruit live. Second, teach the body to release protection. Chiropractic care, breathing mechanics, mobility, walking, strength training at the right dose, magnesium sufficiency, nervous system regulation, and better recovery practices can all help with this. Because we're not just trying to loosen tight muscles. We're trying to help the body to stop needing to brace, and that is a very big deal. Now, the concept here is the heart rate variability, or HRV, you've heard me mention. HRV measures the variation in time between heartbeats. A healthy heart does not beat like a rigid metronome. It constantly adapts to breathing, movement, posture, stress, recovery, and internal demand. Higher HRV generally reflects better adaptability and stronger parasympathetic influence. Lower HRV may reflect stress load, poor sleep, dehydration, inflammation, illness, pain, overtraining, alcohol, emotional stress, or parasympathetic dominance. Or sympathetic dominance. Problem is that many people are carrying stress that they no longer consciously notice. They may say, I don't feel stressed, but their body may show low HRV, poor sleep, tight muscles, poor digestion, elevated resting tension, cravings, and slow recovery. That means the stress response has become normalized or sensitized. HRV helps us to see what the body's adapted to. Now, it's not a diagnosis. It does not replace a clinical exam, but it gives us a useful trend marker for nervous system flexibility. So the solution is to use HRV as feedback. If HRV improves over time, it often suggests the body is becoming more adaptable. If HRV stays low, we ask better questions. Well, is sleep poor? Is inflammation high? Is hydration low? Is training too intense? Is digestion struggling? Is alcohol involved? Is stress load too high? Is the person under eating, or is there illness or pain? So HRV gives us a window into the regulation system. The goal is not to chase a perfect number. The goal is to improve resilience. Now, what we need to talk about here is really the solution framework. And the concept is that healing has an order. Many people jump straight to advanced solutions like supplements, detox programs, protocols, devices, diets, testing, and biohacking. But if the body is still overwhelmed, the results are going to be very, very limited for you. The problem is that repair requires proper resources. So you need energy, sleep, nutrients, circulation, parasympathetic tone, immune resolution, and digestive capacity. So if the body is stuck in survival physiology, it may not use deeper interventions very well. That is why we use a roadmap. Phase 1 is like this. You'll lower the load. Phase 2, you stabilize the rhythm. Phase 3, rebuild regulation. Phase 4, repair and restore. This sequence helps the body to become more receptive to healing. Lowering the load reduces what is overwhelming the system. Stabilizing rhythm restores predictable biological signals again. Rebuilding regulation improves nervous system flexibility. Repairing and support deeper gut, immune, hormone, brain, and tissue healing. So the solution is simply not to do everything at once. The solution is to identify where the body is most stuck and build from the foundation upwards. So this slide introduces then more of a solution framework. The concept is that healing is most definitely, I'm sorry about that. I apologize, guys. The slide here covers the first half of the roadmap. So phase 1 here is simply to lower the load. The concept is the stress bucket. Every stressor adds to the bucket. Poor sleep, excessive sugar, ultra-processed food, alcohol, overtraining, undereating protein, emotional stress, food triggers, late night screens, chronic busyness, toxins, and dehydration all add up. The problem is that the body can handle stressors individually, but they struggle when they start to stack. When the bucket overflows, symptoms begin to appear. The first solution is definitely not perfection. It is to reduce the biggest obvious stressors. Start with the basics. Look at things like improving food quality, reduce excessive sugar content, remove obvious food triggers, reduce alcohol, stop overtraining, increase protein, improve hydration, reduce nighttime screen time, reduce overall stimulation, and protect sleep. Phase 2 is to stabilize the rhythm. The nervous system loves predictable signals. Things like morning sunlight tells the body to stay up. Consistent wake time anchors circadian rhythm. Protein at breakfast stabilizes blood sugar. Hydration and minerals support electrical function. Walking supports lymphatic flow, blood sugar, digestion, and stress regulation. Consistent bedtime cues help the body transition towards deep sleep. The solution here is rhythm, not intensity, not perfection, rhythm. A regulated body is built through repeated, predictable inputs. This slide covers the second half of the roadmap, and this part is where we rebuild regulation. The concept is that the nervous system can be trained. Just like a muscle, regulation improves through repetition. The problem is that many people try to calm down only after they are already overwhelmed. Regulation has to be practiced when the system is not in crisis mode. That can include chiropractic care, breath work, HRV training, vagus nerve exercises, walking, strength training at the right dose, prayer or meditation, recovery days, mobility, posture correction, breathing mechanics, and brain based exercises when needed. The solution is not consistent training of the brake pedal, not sedation, regulation. The goal is for the body to activate when needed and recover when the demand is over. Now, phase 4 is repair and restore. Once the body is less overwhelmed, deeper support often works better. This may include gut repair, microbiome support, omega-3s, vitamin D, magnesium, sufficient amounts of protein, minerals, food sensitivity testing, GI testing, Dutch testing for checking things like your hormonal levels, stress hormone evaluation, brain support, nervous system care, and laser therapy when clinically appropriate. The key is that the repair is more effective when regulation is improving. A body stuck in survival mode is not ready for limited protocols. A body moving toward regulation can use support more effectively. So we regulate first, then restore deeper. The concept here really is about pattern recognition. Symptoms are clues, but they are not the whole story. Fatigue does not always mean the same thing in every person. Body issues do not always come from the same cause. Poor sleep may be driven by cortisol, blood sugar, pain, inflammation, nervous system activation, alcohol, screens, or breathing problems. Brain fog can come from inflammation, sleep deprivation, blood sugar swings, gut dysfunction, hormone changes, toxic load, or mitochondrial stress. The problem with guessing is that people often waste time chasing isolated symptoms. They take one supplement for sleep, or another for digestion, another for inflammation, another for energy, and still miss the deeper pattern. The solution is evaluation. We want to look at the timeline. When did symptoms begin? What changed before they started? What stressors were present? What infections, injuries, medications, diet changes, trauma, or sleep disruptions occurred? Then we assess the nervous system. HRV helps us look at adaptability. Thermal scans help us show autonomic stress patterns. Muscle activity scans can show how much energy the body is spending in tension. Health history shows the patterns. Lifestyle review shows daily inputs. Gut history shows digestion and immune clues. Food reactions show inflammatory patterns. Functional testing may help when appropriate. The goal is not to collect data for data's sake. The goal is to stop guessing and understand why the body is stuck. Once the pattern is clear, the plan can become more precise. Put simply, this whole slide is about reframing the entire conversation. The concept is that symptoms are communication. Fatigue is communication. Poor sleep is communication. Brain fog is communication. Inflammation is communication. Digestive issues are communication. Pain and tension are communication. The problem is that people often interpret symptoms as personal failure. They think they're lazy, weak, unmotivated, aging too quickly, or broken. But many times, the body is not failing. It is adapting. It is protecting. It's conserving. It is bracing. It is asking for a different set of inputs. The solution then is to listen and to respond strategically. Instead of asking, how do I force my body to keep going? We ask, why does my body feel unsafe, depleted, inflamed, or stuck? Then we build the plan. Then we lower the load. Then we stabilize the rhythm. Then we rebuild regulation. Then we repair and restore. That is how we shift from survival to healing. So if you feel tired, wired, and inflamed, do not ignore it. Do not simply push harder. Do not assume nothing can change because your basic labs were normal. Start asking better questions. What is your nervous system carrying? How well are you sleeping? How well are you digesting? How stable is your blood sugar? How much inflammation is present? How well are you recovering? How adaptable is your body? And if you need help answering those questions, that is what a comprehensive evaluation is for. Healing begins when we stop blaming the body and start understanding it. Because your body's not betraying you. It is communicating with you. And once we understand what it's saying, we can begin giving it exactly what it needs to heal. If you have more questions, or you would like to learn more about how to do these types of evaluations, then you can reach out to us. You can contact me directly through the chat room here. You can send me a message. You can leave a comment, or you can go to elitefamilychiros.com and send me a message directly. I would be more than happy to help you to evaluate what is going on with your physiology, with your body, so you can get the answers that you need. Okay. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for being with us today. And I hope that all of you are able to find the answers that you need to live the best life possible. God bless.